Welcome back, all you Regs, and to all you Shinies. Welcome to the most mediocre podcast in the Star Wars universe, the 1313 podcast. I'm Tommy.
And I'm Jackson. And
This week
unfortunately, we're missing Jacob.
We are again missing Jacob this week. Jacob is being an EP baby because he is like the rest of us and works a big boy job now. So, everybody, if you want to hear Jacob's thoughts on the latest episode of the Acolyte, I know that his views are very in line with what Jackson and I have been thinking about the Acolyte. We're going to have lots of discussion, but if you would like to talk to Jacob directly about this episode of the Acolyte or anything else for that matter, I have some of our housekeeping and good things like that. So, as per usual, guys, if you are not already subscribe to the 1313 podcast. We've got awesome Star Wars content coming out all the time. Make sure to follow us on our social media, all of which is linked in the description below. We have a Discord. You should join it. It's free to join. Gets you in touch with other Star Wars collectors, fans, everything like that, and a very keyword positive Star Wars community. And in addition to that, we do have a channel membership on our YouTube channel. It is 99 cents a month, gives you access to all of our reviews early, as well as select other videos, and gives you access to exclusive stickers and badges in our comment section. Buy the merch, buy the merch, buy the merch. And finally, if you'd like to go above and beyond in supporting the channel, we have a Patreon. It has 3 separate tiers, and all the tiers have some amazing benefits. You should check that out in the description below as well. Jackson, how was your week?
I think that was the slowest the intro's ever been done, in my opinion. But it was funny. But week is going good right now. I actually wasn't supposed to be on for this episode. And this is the only platform I'm going to say this, because by tomorrow, when the video comes out, it's going to be my birthday. So I was doing some stuff today, but I had some downtime, thankfully. So that's why I'm on the recording. So RIP Jacob, he was an EP boy, he couldn't make it. Put sleepy time in the chat for Jacob for having to wake up early. But no, did a fun hike this morning, and then I stopped by a GameStop, and I saw that the Season 2 Bad Batch Omega was heavily discounted, and I renewed my GameStop membership, so I got like $5 off of that as well. So it ended up being a really nice deal. Very happy with it. I wanted that figure for like ever, but I just didn't get it, just because I wanted it to go on sale, because I knew not a lot of people were a fan of it. So I played the system on that one. I'll admit it, but I'm happy to have it now. And yeah, I'm chilling out and I'm enjoying the Acolyte. I'm loving the Acolyte, I should say. What about you, Tom?
Well, this week has been a little bit busier. I've been doing a lot of stuff outside of work for once. Been picking up, been opening up some stuff lately, like the Black Series Droidica,
which we have a review of.
We do have a review of. And you should also, I recorded a review. I haven't edited it yet, but I did the TVC Deluxe Jango Fett. I'm so excited for this review to come out, because this action figure is really, really good. And lots of other stuff on the horizon. Lots of other stuff on the horizon. And then this weekend, myself and Hybrid Toy Reviews, as well as your father, are going to Toy Hio.
Crap, I forgot that was already coming.
Yeah. So we're going to be making the journey down to Toy Hio on Saturday, which I'm really excited about. So expect a vlog for that sometime probably early next week. We'll have a nice little guag for Toy Hio.
Jacob's putting out a guag too. That'll be out probably in a day or two, something Disney related. Yeah. So that'll be neat.
I'm excited. Other than that, I also am just enjoying the Acolyte, which, Jackson, the Acolyte is the big discussion topic for this week's podcast. So this week's podcast is discussion of the Acolyte episode 3, titled Destiny. However, I'm sure that it will cover some other topics relating to the Acolyte as we kind of move through the flow of discussion as well. But Jackson, I know you and I had briefly spoken before we started this recording regarding the show. So if you want to share kind of our disclaimer before we really get into this.
Yeah, sure. So Tommy and I have come up with a new 1313 policy that although there is a lot of extreme hate towards the Acolyte right now and in the Star Wars community, we will not be discussing really any of that. The point of our podcast episodes going forward for the Acolyte and really every other show is if there are genuine critiques to something, then we'll discuss it and we'll talk about it. Or if we didn't like something, we'll talk about that as well. But if your basis of not liking the show is based on the director, the race, and the gender of the characters, and all these other social justice, in quotations, Disney is woke issues, we're not going to discuss that. We won't give this a platform because there are too many platforms in which that is on. And we want to provide positive Star Wars content to our community and the people who want to tune into our show. So that's going to be our stance going forward for the Acolyte and anything regarding that. Because, if you've been watching too, I made a bunch of shorts and almost every single one of them, people were just crucifying us on like Acolyte issues. But again, mind you, these are people who have probably never watched the Acolyte in their life and haven't watched a single Disney Star Wars related show besides maybe the Clone Wars, give it the Mandalorian at best. So also just want to put out there, the Acolyte had 18 million views on its first 2 days of streaming for the first 2 episodes. You can suck that. Star Wars is dead, people.
Yeah, man. I definitely agree. I think I enjoy talking Star Wars a lot more when we're talking about Star Wars and not about the outside reactions to Star Wars. I like just getting sucked into the universe and talking about all the lore and everything like that. It's just
exactly.
And that's what I focus on when I watch the show. I'm not thinking about, what the director's choice was or the writer's choice. And really everyone that I have seen that focuses more on that is miserable. Those people are so miserable because they're not watching the show to just be a part of the story and the characters. They're trying to look for certain things. And
they see the forest for the trees.
That's not what we're here to do. I do, again, kind of want to build off what you said. This whole kind of, for lack of a better term, the temper tantrums from a very small
yet existential crises.
yeah, from a very small yet very, very vocal portion of people online. I won't even. Most of them aren't even watching the show. Saying that they're done with Star Wars, they're blah blah blah. Hey, good job. You guys are doing a good job of getting views and attention on the internet. If that's what your intention is, you're succeeding. You're doing a very good job. But at the same time, I think honestly, and I've seen some other creators say this as well. If this show is making you this upset, and Star Wars as a whole has been making you this actively upset, to express it so much online, it may be in your best interest to just take a step back from the franchise and maybe look for something else to try to enjoy. Because a lot of the negative and the quote unquote controversy, and I think it's honestly funny with this show because all of the quote unquote controversy was fake. It wasn't even a lot of stuff, recent shows has been kind of, it's brought up and they're like, it ends up being kind of right. No, nothing that was said about the show so far has been correct. So I really, truly, to those people, if this show is making you that upset, it may be in your best interest to just take a step back from it. We have friends of ours that are creators that are not watching the show. And that's because they just want to enjoy what they enjoy from the franchise and they don't want to be bothered with the new stuff. And, more power to you if that's what you want to do, but we're not going to be here to continue to reiterate and have as Jackson and I say, the revolving door of conversation when it comes to the quote unquote backlash coming from the show.
Yeah, exactly. It's just stupid and it's pointless. But even something that I really liked too is just because I'm in a unique position where the show comes out for everybody at 9 p.m. for Tommy and Jacob. But for me, it comes out at 3 p.m. and that's while I'm at work. So I can't look at so I choose not to go on social media or on our Discord or anything on those days, just because I don't want the show spoiled for me in any way. And I got back from work. I threw on episode 3 and I finished it and I went, wow, that had to have been one of the greatest like story-based episodes about characters and lore that we've had in a very, very long time. And then I saw the internet and they're like, it's rumored, it's rumored, it's rumored. And I was like, all right, whatever. I loved it. But I feel like we should get into some awesome stuff about the show.
Yeah. It's been interesting too, because I've been looking at fan reactions from other creators and stuff. And, TikTok and Twitter are good ones because it's more from the individual rather than like a big name like YouTube.
Sure.
It's this show, the whole thing has been very, very, I guess more split than I've seen with recent Star Wars shows. I remember when Ahsoka was coming out, we saw a lot of people being like, the show is flat, it's boring, blah, blah, blah. I see a considerable amount of people jumping to the defense of this show, and saying that they're enjoying the show and that it's, it's not knock my socks off Star Wars like I had in moments of watching things like Book of Boba Fett or Ahsoka. But I think it's very good, enjoyable Star Wars. And I'm enjoying being in a new era with new characters. And one thing that I really liked, and I would like to talk about this first, is what this episode did for Osha for me as a character. Because up to this point, I really was kind of indifferent towards Osha's character. Like, yeah, she's the good guy. She's like the goody two shoes, the ideal Jedi character. But I ultimately, like, I didn't really have a strong attachment to her character. After seeing this episode, which was pretty much a flashback or an origin story for Osha and May, I am so much more attached to Osha's character. What about you?
I would probably agree. I would say in the beginning, I was, I liked Osha, but honestly, from watching the beginning part of this episode, I was like, man, like May is like such a better character. Like, why do we have to focus on Osha? I actually really did enjoy May a lot more. But then at the end, when she was like, and you'll die, drop the candle, I was like, so my views.
You'll float too.
What was confusing, and it might just be mentioned later, was how like May was even like, Osha survived. It was like, no, Dip, you're the one that fell and everyone thought died. Like, that doesn't surprise me. You killed your moms. And we'll get to the moms part because I called it since Celebration, and all of these people said when the lady who plays the head mother was in an interview, and she said that she was a strong female character, and everyone lost their stuff and jumped to the conclusion that Star Wars is woke, Star Wars is trash, Star Wars is about women empowerment. And I went, witches. I knew it from the beginning. It was witches. I want to say I told you so to you fake fans out there that are like, I'm a real Star Wars fan and I understand. No, should have known it was witches. That's the only female empowered society that we have, and everyone is a mom because it's a female society. So take the L. That's my L to all you fake fans out there.
Jackson is the Acolyte Oracle OG. You heard it here first.
OG Acolyte Oracle. No, but my Oracle prophecy failed because I thought the next episode was going to be with Kelnaka, and I was wrong.
Yeah,
That's okay.
This show is really watching how, I think I mentioned this last week, the Dark Horse comics would read for Star Wars for the prequel era when I was a kid. And I think that if you're a Star Wars fan that kind of grew up with the Dark Horse comics in the 2000s, I think that, and honestly, it reads like a graphic, or watches like a graphic novel reads. Like I've read like tons of like superhero graphic novels where in the middle of the book, you'll just have an entire chapter that's dedicated to the origin story of one character. And it was really refreshing. I really, really enjoyed the way that they did it. I think they did a good job of, excuse me, it is late and I'm tired.
He's an eating boy.
They did a good job with like introducing all the cast to me in the first 2 episodes. then taking a step back and making me actually care about our two twin sisters, May and Osha, much, much more.
So there's a military plane drill flying by my place real quick, so I can mute. But no, I'm glad that this was the third episode and not the first, because it keeps you, I feel like it keeps you really engaged. I feel like we were talking before the show, I've been listening to a bit of Rebel Force Radio, and I feel like even though the show is moving fast, I agree with them that it's still keeping you engaged. There's something happening next that you're looking forward to, and you're always asking a question. So I feel like they do a really good job of that, because like them, we also thought that the whole who's killing Jedi trope was going to be like the entire like season.
Yeah.
And then it was like, oh yeah, first episode, we figured out who it was already. And it was like, oh shoot. All right. Well, what's the show about then?
Yeah. I'm very interested to see what really happened with the death of the Coven. I'm really interested to see, because they purposefully shot it and left it in a way that you have questions, because we saw Osha trapped in the room. May says she's going to kill her, and she lights the fire. But did May actually drop the lantern on the ground, or did something else happen? Did May actually kill the witches, or I have a hunch that it was actually the Jedi that killed the witches?
I'm going to be really honest with you, and this is one of the most unpopular opinions. I think the Jedi are evil. I think this minus Master Soul. I think Master Soul is to be praised. He is an amazing character. He's my favorite character in the show right now. He's like Qui-Gon Jinn status cool. But I think the Jedi are evil. I feel like the episode really did a good job at highlighting the corruption that the Jedi are really a part of right now, and how they just are abducting kids. Because when the prequels came out and the Clone Wars were like, oh, like the Jedi take people's kids, they like kidnap people, ha ha ha. But we got to see more of like the literal, like malicious side of these actions, of being like, yeah, like we're here to take these kids. You're not supposed to have force wielding kids but us. And Rebel Force Radio did a really good job at explaining this too, as someone who hasn't read High Republic novels yet. They were talking about how in the High Republic novels, there's basically a council of people who are force sensitive. There's like Jedi, witches, and like other people as well. I can't remember the names for the life of me. But the Jedi want the monopoly on who can control the force and use it. And that's why they're so obsessed with taking these people's kids, is so they can cut these lines off from these other like families and members of the council that use the force.
Interesting. See, now I am more on the side of the Jedi, because
whoa, okay, disagreement. I like it.
These witches are dark side adjacent. They are doing things, as the mother says, that are dark and unnatural. And that when she said that line, I was like Palpatine. Immediately, like my head went to Palpatine telling Anakin about the dark side and Revenge of the Sith.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that their ability to create life being unnatural is something that would understandably make the Jedi concerned and want to investigate them. The Jedi were there to investigate the Coven and then realize that there were children.
They were spying on the kids.
They show up. They're like, hey, we want to see if these kids want to come with us. And then one of the witches puts poor Padawan Torben under a spell. And then the witches, some of them are conspiring about potentially killing the Jedi. So for me, if I was one of the Jedi, and I had an opportunity, I can't say I wouldn't have done the same thing, because you're thinking about the children involved. You're trying to save the children, and especially for Soul, it's not malicious. He's probably the only one that really just wants to help these kids.
Yes, I would agree.
Yeah, and I don't think that he had anything to do with the death of any of the witches. I think the other three, did, but I think that he had I think he went straight for the kids.
I think he was either clueless or didn't know, because now that I'm thinking about it and I'm connecting the dots, this story doesn't make sense. Why would Torben kill himself and be like, I still think about what happened all those years ago? All you did from what we saw is you were just standing there and your mind taken over and whatnot. And then like that was it. That wouldn't be like a reason to like end it in those circumstances, you know. I'm gonna give your theory some credence. I believe the Jedi killed the witches, but Master Soul didn't know or wasn't involved. And that's why he's also like, why is May killing all these Jedi?
Right.
And if that's the case, Indara deserved it, Torben deserved it. I wanna love Kelnaka. I wanna believe Kelnaka can do no wrong, that he's a cool guy. So we're gonna have to wait.
Now, I also want to put out there, in regards to this theory as well. I don't know if you saw this because they never focused on it, but in one of the last shots of the episode, Osha's talking to Soul, and all of a sudden, Torben has the scar on his eye. Before the very last shot, Torben did not have the scar on his eye, and then when they're on the ship,
I have to go back. No, because I'm watching Osha.
Yeah, Torben has the scar on his eye now.
If Jacob was here, Jacob would have live pulled up the episode and watched through it really quick to find, no, oh my gosh, that is such a good detail. See, Leslie Headland is an amazing writer.
Yep. What Jacob also would have done was called you stupid for not noticing it the first time through.
That is a good point. Jacob does not have my back on that. But
so, yeah, man. I mean,
love you, Jacob.
All those details together make me think that the Jedi did kill the witches, but I think that it was provoked. I don't think they just walked in and went, hey, we got an opportunity to kill y'all, so we're going to do that. But you never know, because also Master Vernestra told Soul, we just need to kill Osha. It's what we need to do. So who knows, you know?
I'm also going to lean then towards that the Jedi just did it, because when I was watching it the only time I saw it, I was a little bit confused by Osha talking about her moms, because she just refers to all of them as like, oh, mother, like kind of a thing. So I thought like the great mother was in that pile of first people. But then when she was leaving the courtyard, the great mother was there. And I was like, well, that doesn't make sense. And I was like, first of all, I thought you either just talked to her, but why is she alone?
Right.
Dang, they definitely killed her. She was an amazing character too. She was so convincing. It was crazy to even watch it.
I really, really liked the whole, like, I felt like the witches actually were a believable culture. You know, it wasn't just like, oh, we're witches and we use magic. Like, it was, they talked about how they view the Force. They are Force wielders. There's so much to them. And I have lots of questions that I don't know if they'll be answered or not, regarding the creation of Osha and May. I feel like it was explained pretty well, but obviously we as fans are always going to want to seek for the exact details of everything.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But I mean, in my personal opinion, because it was a critique of some that I had seen saying that the acting in this episode was really bad, and specifically for the child actors, they're children. Give them a break. If you don't think it was convincing, do it yourself. Not everyone can act, and that is a very important thing to know, because my brother, who does film, acts in some films that he does, and he's talked about this, like the struggle of doing it. I try to act when we do Tikas, and you two bully me for it. So just remember that acting is not as easy as it seems. And all these people think they can do a better job. Then you do it yourself. Then you do it yourself. Then you do it yourself. How to give you the Dr. Umar 3 times to make my point right there.
Yeah. I also, while we're on that, on this topic of the witches, I really just was shocked, because I saw all the stuff coming out after people did their early viewings about, oh, there's lesbian witches and they blah, blah, blah. So I thought it was going to be like way more prominent from how much people complained.
Yes.
And then there was less of the relationship between the two mothers than there was in Andor with the lesbian relationship in that show. So I was fully expecting it to be a very prominent thing of the episode, and it wasn't. So it honestly like was laughable. I was expecting like something completely different than what we actually got.
Oh yeah, it's big media trying to blow up stories. I will always say to never trust a big name publisher on any news related to Star Wars, because all the articles I've been seeing this week is Anakin's like birthright and descendancy is thrown away in the Acolyte and yada yada yada, because these people who have never watched a single Star Wars property in their life watch the Acolyte and then write a novel on it, and then they get a bunch of clicks and maybe they get paid that week. I don't know. But I think it's interesting then to learn about, if we want to talk about the birth of Osha and May, how they are Force created, because like you said, only the dark side can do that. The light side can't, and that has been detailed already in canon. So then we're definitely not going to know how that exactly happens. But I'm curious now in the circumstances that it happens with Shmi, because we know from the Acolyte that the Great Mother births it through one of the other witches. But then Shmi, when talking to Qui-Gon, just says it just happens. So maybe instead of people thinking that because Osha and May are then born through the Force, then that disrupts Anakin's prophecy, I would say that it only increases Anakin's prophecy, because it was an unnatural way that it happened. It wasn't through magic. It wasn't through these other means. It just happened. So that's why Anakin is the chosen one, and that's why May and Osha wouldn't be a chosen one. They might have a high midichlorian count because of the way that they were, and that will probably be shown. But again, Osha doesn't really use the Force or care for it, so like it doesn't matter that much.
Right, and I'm on the same page with you there. I think that the circumstances are completely different, because whether you are in the camp of Palpatine influenced the midichlorians to create Anakin, or you're in the camp of Anakin just is a virgins of the Force,
I don't think Palpatine could have.
That scenario, either way, is different than a coven of witches using the Force and using their powers to create the next generation of witches, basically. And them being twins, I think would speak more to something like a Force dyad, or something else where they can feel each other's experiences. And also there's the part of it where one is drawn to the light and one is drawn to the dark. Like they're supposed to be
yin and yang.
Yeah, the yin and yang, exactly.
Did you notice that in the Acolyte logo, when the show starts, the O goes like this and it separates, and one is light and one is dark? Osha and May.
There you go. Yeah, but I think it's pretty obvious. And that was another thing I've seen a lot of complaints saying that it, does, what's the word? It doesn't do justice to the chosen one theory, or the chosen one, prophecy, totally I should say. And it has nothing to do. Yeah, and it has nothing to do with the chosen one prophecy. And even if it is like there are virgins in the Force, who's to say that Anakin is the only one ever in the history of the galaxy?
Maybe, I feel like because these witches are clearly taken out.
Yeah. And this has nothing to do with the Skywalker saga. So I feel like it's either way irrelevant,
Yeah, exactly. And again, it's so far detached from the rest of the series that this can do a lot of things, and none of these characters, some of them will survive till the Phantom Menace,
Right.
So we won't see most of these people again, and we don't in Star Wars, so not a huge deal.
They're all going to die anyway, so.
Yeah. I mean, at least for me when I'm viewing it, because we have some members in our community that are kind of like on the fence about it, and they said they kind of view it as like an expanded universe kind of show rather than like a set in Star Wars show. But I feel like a lot of people might even just believe that just because there's such a huge time difference, because everything in the trilogy is so connected and it's linear. So like that's why people say you have to watch Star Wars in this order or it won't make sense, kind of a thing. Or you can throw in the Acolyte at any point, really, I feel like, and it'll be okay for what it is. So I completely understand these people. Oh, I didn't tell you, my manager doesn't like The Acolyte.
Did he watch it?
He watched episode 1 and he was just like, it was cool, but I don't like the whole idea of them being twins. I thought it was going to be a sleeper agent. And I feel like that's just been done already. And I was like, I mean, at least he gave a valid, in his own opinion, a critique of why he didn't like the show and not I didn't like it because they're women. Nah, kind of a response. He tried it. He didn't like it. He's not already like the biggest Star Wars obsessed fan like we are. So like,
right.
Give the guy a break. It doesn't hurt. He tried it. He didn't like it. And that's okay.
Yeah. If the show's not for you, then that's for, I'm not going to try and convince anybody to like the show. Obviously, as someone who does like the show, I want to share my excitement with people about, how I enjoy the show. But I'm not a fan of when the misinformation that comes with it, because you have people with very, very big platforms peddling this narrative for people to not watch the show, but also only watch my content covering the show while also telling you not to watch it, because then people will go take that and then regurgitate what they heard from it's like playing telephone. What you heard from the person that watched the show but doesn't like the show, and then is coming back and telling you why you shouldn't like the show. So then you're spreading all that to other people. And that's the dangerous
that exact thing happened with Ahsoka. Yeah, because I had people that were like, well, didn't this and this happen in Ahsoka? And like this and this? And I was like, what? No, where did you hear that from? And they're like, oh, really? Because X, Y, and Z person told me it did. I said, no, that didn't happen in the show like at all, dude. They're like, oh, I didn't know that. And I'm like, because you didn't watch the show and you watched someone else talk about the show. So we hope, at least if you're listening to us, that you're watching The Acolyte so that you understand and you're not just taking us at our word, so that you have the true identity of like what's happening.
Right. And obviously, the numbers don't lie. It's
numbers don't lie.
The show is
18 million.
The show is performing at a degree that is completely different from, other Star Wars shows. So there is no denying, whether it's all hate watching or, it's all people that are actually enjoying the show, it's being watched way more than other Star Wars content. And my take is that it's the excitement of being in a new era.
Yes. I'm very, very excited that it's something new. And that's what I've liked about all of this. Like a witch colony that's trying to make their own Force-sensitive people. Brand new idea we haven't had before. The designs, the costumes, the sabers, it's new, it's fresh, it's cool. We're not diving for the millionth time into the OT or even touching the sequels again or touching the Clone Wars again. It's new. So
yeah, and I think that it's cool that the show is doing that. And I think that's what's enticing a lot of people to watch the show, because it's not so connected. You don't need to know all this other content and know this character that's going to walk on screen at this time. It's, that's for the people that have been around, and there's something to enjoy here for entry-level Star Wars fans.
And if Yoda and Plo Koon do end up walking on the screen, it still won't be a big deal.
Right, exactly. I am really, really interested to see how the relationship of May and Osha will develop with the remainder of the show, now knowing what their last interaction with each other was like. For May,
how many episodes is this?
8.
Damn, we're about to be halfway done.
I know. I honestly think that, May is kind of like the people that are mindlessly hating, because she has an existential crisis over Osha having a different opinion than her.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
it's and then May is willing to burn down everything she loves, and somehow I'm bleeding.
Oh wow!
From my finger.
Someone poked your voodoo doll.
Oh jeez, dude, I'm bleeding from my leg.
Oh, do you need to fix that really quick, and I can yap?
No, we're good.
All right.
And May is willing to burn down everything that she loves and cares about because she's having an existential crisis.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that is, you know, and Osha wanting to be a Jedi felt believable. That's what I think really brought me in on this the most. So now I wonder what happened where Osha leaves the order.
Sorry, there we go. Yeah, I agree. I feel like that'll definitely. I'm not too positive if we'll get that many flashbacks again.
Yeah.
To like what happened before. Maybe people will just talk about it, or maybe there might be like a realization of something, and a Jedi cuts down a sister or something like that. But like, I don't know, because I think it was funny too how her mom was right. How like you want to join the Jedi, but it's not really what you want, kind of a thing. And yeah, I could even see Osha leaving the Jedi just because she doesn't see the orders going anywhere, and that's why she leaves it, because she's like, oh, well, I could use these special powers, but like you guys aren't really doing anything for good, so I'll just do something that I find for fun. So
yeah, well, I also wonder if there's going to be a conversation between Osha and May where May tells Osha what really happened, and then Osha gets upset with Soul, but Soul would be like, what are you talking about? That's not what happened. That's not what I was told. And it's going to be all this he said, she said back and forth. And also I gotta say, you know, on another note, I love that the Jedi are not being painted to be the good guys, because we were watching it from the perspective of the witches. Of course they would not see the Jedi as good guys. I'm enjoying this about them, you know?
Yeah, my buddy Teddy even texted me too, just because I was like, the show really paints the Jedi in a bad light. And he was like, well, how? And I was going back to the first episode where I completely forgot about how in the prequels, in the Clone Wars era, we've seen that the Jedi work under the Chancellor. And this is the point in time where they don't have any political oversight. And that's why they're like, yep, just quickly try her, get her way, because we can't have our political opponents knowing about this, because if they know that there's issues with the Jedi, they'll put oversight and power over us. So maybe we could even see that implemented at the end of the show, where something happens and the rest of the galaxy finds out, and then they're like, okay, the Jedi will now be under the Chancellor, because then he can give them the yes and the no for things that they can do, rather than the Jedi being everywhere across the galaxy doing whatever they want at any point in time.
I like that. Yeah,
I think that's an important theory to think about.
Yeah, that'd be sick.
Or maybe we won't. We'll get another show on that.
Right. Who knows? Yeah, another spinoff. Yeah. All in all, though, I really enjoyed this episode. I've always been a fan of character development episodes. You know, I don't need every episode of everything I watch to just be plot, like all the way through. The character development, I think, adds so much needed context for the show. You know, you get your fun action in the first couple episodes, you kind of get an idea of what's going on, and then now we're starting to get beneath the surface.
Yeah, and quick side note too, I'm not exactly sure how true this is, because I saw a few articles online about it, but if it is, it's impressive nonetheless. There have been some articles about how, I'm pretty sure, I don't speak Koreans, but Hong Sang-yong, I don't know how to say his name, but that's the gentleman who plays Master Soul, how he learned English just to play in the show. And if that's true, then the dude sounds like fluent in like American English. Like he doesn't have like an accent like much at all. And it's like really, really good. But I'm telling you, dude, every single week when I'm booting at the show right now, I'm like, what's Master Soul gonna do? He's such a cool character. Like when I was at GameStop today too, the guy was like, are you looking for anything in the future? And I was like, so when are you guys getting the Master Soul Black Series figure? Because a man wants to know. I need to know. And surprisingly enough, because of the shipping in Hawaii, it's going to come out like 2 weeks after the release date, maybe. So yeah, because doesn't it come out on GameStop on the 20th is when those figures drop?
I don't know.
I think I saw that somewhere, and I'll have to double check. But he was like, yeah, it's supposed to be in like the first week of July. And I was like, July? But I also, the place that I work is the world's largest outdoor mall, and there's a 3-story Target attached to it. And it's like a 5-minute walk from my job. And so I went the day that oh crap, we forgot to mention for the Patreon giveaway, everybody, it's the Captain Rex Lego set. I forgot to mention that. Oops, sorry. But when I went to Target, they had a full stock of that, and they had a full stock of like toys. So like if a new like toy like drops, I can very easily walk to it before I start my shift at work and pick it up. So that'll be a huge dub in the future, dude. A huge W.
For sure. But yeah, I mean, so we're 3 episodes in. We're about to go into the mid-season finale of the Acolyte next. Where are you at going into this?
I'm personally very excited for the mid-season finale because Acolyte Oracle moment, there's some dumb bird right over there on the railing, like cog. So sorry. But I think it's going to be the episode where they go to the planet where Kanaka is, and they're approached by whoever this Sith in quotations person with a red lightsaber is. I think we're finally going to get those scenes, and I'm excited to see all the Jedi in action. If I'm correct by the promo images and beginning trailers, this could be the instance where we see the Jedi with the whip lightsaber. That'll be cool. So I think if I'm correct and it's that episode, there could be a lot of really cool things that are about to happen.
That would be cool. Yeah, for me, I'm just along for the ride. I'm really enjoying it. As I've seen each episode, I'm enjoying it more and more. Is it like I said, it's not knock your socks off Star Wars for me.
No.
But I'm still just really enjoying it. It's a fun ride. It's different, but it's still familiar. And that's exactly what I want from Star Wars right now. So I'm all in, and I'm just enjoying myself.
Yeah, and I will side note too, I'm not as excited for episodes of The Acolyte as I was for like Bad Batch or something else like that. I'm excited because it's Star Wars content weekly, so that we can have a fun topic to talk about on the show to you guys, which is always a nice change of things in my opinion, rather than be like, guys, what are we talking about this week for the show as we're recording?
Right. Yeah, all in all, I'm really excited. I'm enjoying the show, and it feels like I feel like I'm consistently enjoying it, because it's not connected to other Star Wars. I'm not nitpicking so much, looking for Easter eggs and everything. I'm just here along for the ride. And you should be too. I'd highly encourage, if you've made it this far into the podcast for whatever reason, that you would give The Acolyte a chance if you haven't watched it. Take it from us, lifelong Star Wars fans. We are shills, but
apparently we're shills.
I think this one's worth watching. So give it a chance. If you don't like it, you don't like it. If you do, then you can thank us for it.
Yeah, and drop a comment down below. We love the conversation. And if you have genuine critiques, we're always here to talk about it in there. We're always happy to respond. There's comments that are just excessively negative that I just don't care to respond to. I don't believe in giving those people the time of day. So if your comment is unanswered, it's either because it was stupid and we don't respond, or if it actually was genuinely nice, whoops, sorry, I actually missed it. So
yeah, that's all I got for Acolyte this week, though.
Yeah, that's all I got too. Again, for people in the Patreon, just wanted to let you know again that the giveaway for the month of June is the Captain Rex Lego Microfighter set. Again, it is the same Captain Rex in the Venator. Need to hook you fine people up with something very good this month just because you deserve it. And screw Lego scalpers if you were just trying to resell the Rex. You're stupid for that, and now you can get the Rex for like so much less.
Hell yeah.
Did you want to do the outro, Tom? Or did you want me?
I can do it. I just had to mute myself. There was a motorcycle very loudly going across the
I
street.
could hear it. I'm doing like the fly rub, like when you see a fly and it goes like this.
Oh, yeah. All right. So with that, everybody, I hope you enjoyed this week's episode of the 1313 Wokecast. If you did and you're right, subscribe. Make sure to subscribe to the 1313 podcast. We've got awesome content. Everything is linked in the description below. Make sure to join. And Jackson, what should you do with the merch?
You should buy the merch, buy the merch, buy the merch, buy the merch.
All right. And with that, we bid you adieu. We will see you next week for another Wokecast. Goodbye, everybody.
See y'all.
Hey, this is Vanessa Marshall. I play Hera Syndulla on Star Wars Rebels, and you're listening to the 1313 podcast.
Dun 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 dun. Dun 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 dun. Dun 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 dun. Dun 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 dun. Hum da da hum da da hum dum dum da. Hum da da hum da da dum dum da dum. Ba-do 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 ba-dum ba-ba-dum ba-do ba-do ba-dum ba-do ba-dum dum. Hum da dum hum da da hum dum 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 dum. Hum dum da dum hum da da hum dum da da. Hey, I'm da dum da dum da. Hum da dum da dum da dum da. Dum da da ba da dum dum da ba ba da ba da.